Welcome to the Sale Solos. We trust that you'll be blessed by this week's video.
We're going to show another short video, slightly different to the one we just showed. This is working with today's reading and today's sermon as well. It's entitled The Good Samaritan by Vegitales. Does anyone know what Vegitales is? Yep. Most people do? Good. You're going to enjoy this. It goes for a few minutes, but I'm going to set it up and sit back and enjoy this for a few minutes.
The sun always shone on the mountains of Fibble. The wind and the rains never came. To call the place beautiful, no one would quibble, though hard on the feet they'd exclaim. But high in those hills, past the rocks and the rubble, so high that the clouds were below, sat two tiny towns that were nothing but trouble. As you listen, you'll see that it's so. Now the town to the west that thought it was best bore the name Flibberoloo, where the women and men since 1710 have worn on their heads one large shoe. Now in town number 2, one big shoe wouldn't do, so the people of Jibberty Lot would look down and bellow at shoe-headed fellows and place on their own heads a pot.
Mine's really more of a kettle.
For days without end, these two neighbors would bicker as to whose headgear was best, and the shoes and the pots would fly ever thicker, from morning to night without rest. But not all of the people who lived in these cities were angry and bitter and vile. A few would write poems and sing happy ditties and greet all their friends with a smile. One Flibian fellow who hated a fight tried hard not to act like a mobster. While pots crashed around him from morning till night, he'd just play with his pet white-up lobster. They kept to themselves and they'd talk and they'd talk, until one day he said,
Hey, let's go for a walk. I'm tired of lying around like a squid. I want to go out there.
So that's what he did. The shoe-headed boy and his blue plastic friend walked out of their town and began to descend to the dark, rocky valley between the two cities, away from his friends and their lively ditties.
Hey, this is swell, he said. Gosh, this is fun. It's great that my lobster can get out and run.
But neither the toy nor the boy with the shoe could see the disaster about to ensue. For up in the rocks, hidden just out of sight, were 6 beady eyes filled with anger and spite. 6 beady eyes watched our hero meander, 2 shifty crooks and their ruthless commander. "Oh, look what good fortune," the nasty one said. "Here comes a poor fool with a shoe on his head.
I bet he's got money. I bet he's got gold or maybe some jewelry he'd like us to hold.
Whatever the booty, I think I could stand it. Why, that's what I live for. That's why I'm a bandit." And then they attacked him from under their rock. First they knocked off his shoe, then they knocked off his sock. But the thing they did next was extremely unfunny. Why, they shook him so hard that he dropped his milk money.
Hey!
He protested.
I don't like your ilk. How will I go strong if I don't drink my milk?
But they didn't care. They accomplished their goal. So they put our friend down, stuck his head in a hole, and walked off with his money, every last nickel, then yelled back as they left.
See you around, sorry pickle. I'm a cucumber.
Then he said with a moan,
Well, I guess I'm alone.
but this was a loneliness he'd never known. His friends were far off and his lobster was missing. The sound he could hear was just the wind hissing.
Hello? Hello?
Things looked pretty grim for our Flibian buddy, his head in a hole, his shoe bent and muddy. And then, were those footsteps? Oh, could it be true? Along came the mayor of Flibberoloo. Of anyone, surely he'd help the poor soul.
Hello?
Said the boy with his head in a hole.
I seem to have fallen. I seem to be stuck. But now that you're here, well, I guess I'm in luck.
Oh dear,
Said the mayor, observing the shoe.
fellow indeed, and he's Flibian too. Young man, I have noticed your dire situation, and please rest assured that I share your frustration. But how can I put this? What can I say? But maybe you understand better this way.
Is that music?
I'm busy, dreadfully busy. You've no idea
mayor had finished his song, the Flibian doctor came strolling along.
Out of my way!
She said, starting to slide.
If you and your pickle would please step aside. I'm very important. I can't stand and chat.
Well, that's not my pickle. I found him like that. Besides, it so happens I'm noteworthy too. Why, I am the mayor of Flibberoloo.
I'm a cucumber. I see.
Said the doctor.
You'll understand without an appointment I can't lend a hand. They're folks with bronchitis. They're kids with the flu.
She said to the mayor of Flibberoloo.
If I'm not mistaken, you're quite busy too.
Well, they talked about schedules, compared daily planners, till finally a voice said,
Please pardon my manners. I don't mean to bug you. I see that you're busy, but being inverted has made me quite dizzy.
The two other Flibians paused for a while. They looked at each other, then said with a smile,
We're busy, busy, dreadfully busy. You've no idea what we have to do. Busy, busy, shockingly busy. Much, much too busy for you. 'Cause we're busy, busy, dreadfully busy. More than a bumblebee, more than an ant. Busy, busy, horribly busy. We love to have but the cats. Papa!
oh, it was just dreadful. How could they desert their Flibian friend with his head in the dirt?
That's it then. I'm finished. I'll die here down under. If they would not help me, then who would?
He wondered. But wait, someone else on the road overhead. Would they help a friend beaten up, left for dead? Oh, look, on his head, not a shoe but a pot. Why, this little guy was from Gibberty Lot. Would he help a Flibian? Certainly not. The boy with the pot saw our friend with the shoe.
Oh, look!
He exclaimed.
He's from Flibberoloo. Why, they think we're garbage. They pelt us with shoes. Why should I care if he's beaten and bruised? But out here in the wild, his chances are slim. If I was in need, would I want help from him?
He looked at our friend, and he looked at the shoe. And then in his heart, he knew what to do.
He may be Flibian, that's plain to see. But God made him special, just like he made me.
So we got him unstuck, and he picked up the shoe. And together, they walked back to Flibberoloo, out of the valley and back into town, where he stayed by his side till the doctor was found.
Oh my!
Said the doctor.
He's wearing a pot. The little one there is from Gibberty Lot. You saved this fellow? You pulled him through it? I don't understand. Tell me, why did you do it?
He has a shoe and I have a pot. But when we look deeper, there's more that we've got. God made us special, and now I can see. If you're special to him, then you're special to me. Love your neighbor. When someone helps you, then you'll understand. When you love your neighbor, loving means lending a hand.
If you see someone who's hurt or in need, maybe it's time to perform a good deed. And when you finish, you'll find that it's true. When you make them feel better, you'll feel better too.
Here, let me help you.
Thank you.
Oh, love your neighbor.
When someone helps you, then you understand.
When you love your neighbor, loving means lending a hand.
So the boy with the pot gave the doctor some money to pay for the cucumber's bill. And the mayor cried out with his eyes moist and running.
I'm touched by his act of goodwill. If this little guy can take care of his brother, when he lives in one town, he in the other, why can't we all try to help one another? And love would surround our fair hill.
Now if you visit the mountains of Fibble, you won't see a shoe or a pot. Instead, they throw flowers and candy to nibble. I bet that you'd like it a lot.
I was hoping that other kids that normally sit at the back would be here to see that, but that's okay. If you were noticing, Lily sat still for the whole 10 minutes of that video. When can't get her to sit still for a sermon, but watching a Vegitales video, sure. How well do you know the story of the Good Samaritan? Was that, yeah, I've heard this before. Did you hear it first in Sunday school, perhaps? Or it is a story that everybody brings out, don't they? It's the story that everybody knows. We rattle it out all the time to make ourselves feel good and warm and fuzzy about loving our neighbour and about what God wants us to do in this world. The story itself comes in the Bible as a question towards Jesus about who an expert of the Lord's neighbour is and how they're about to go about getting into eternal life. Jesus' story then goes on to suggest that the better neighbour to the injured man was the Samaritan rather than the priest, who was supposedly somebody who had a very good relationship with God, or a Levite, one of God's chosen people. It's a big deal. Of the three, who would you normally presume God should show favour to? And yet the Samaritan is seen to have done the most good in this situation. The more I was thinking about it, the more I thought, in order to get the full magnitude of this story, though, we have to know who the Samaritans were. Who were these people in the time in which Jesus was preaching and talking about them? So I thought maybe I'd give you a little bit of history on the Samaritans and Jews. The Samaritans were, at this time and for about 1,000 years beforehand, the most detested people group for the Jews, as they were considered neither Jew or Gentile. It is likely they represented the former northern kingdom of Israel, and whilst recognising the Pentateuch, or the first books of the Bible, they did not see Jerusalem at the centre of worship, instead suggesting that God was to be worshipped on Mount Gerizim rather than Mount Zion. Do you see the two mountains we have going on here in the Vegitales video? The Samaritans and the Jews probably worshipped the same God. It's what most theologians are suggesting nowadays. And yet they were miles apart when it came to accepting and loving each other. They weren't throwing pots and shoes at each other. They were throwing something a little bit more substantially dangerous. And this had gone on for quite a while. I heard a very good comparison recently. As well as doing the other things I'm doing, trying to finish off my Bachelor of Theology. And part of that includes doing 2 subjects this semester. And somebody in my class made a very helpful comparison when we were talking about this earlier this semester. They said being a Samaritan and a Jew at this time would be a little bit like being a Catholic or a Protestant from 1969 to 1997 in Northern Ireland. Do you get an automatic picture of what that must be? During this time of war and uprise, it is estimated that 3,532 people were killed, with almost 50% of that number thought to have been civilians, with no real point in the fighting. Realistically, we're talking about the same thing here. 2 groups of people who believe in God, but differ in small details, and because of those differences, prejudices, and judgments, these were people at war. How sad is it when the people of God can't even get it together enough to not want to hurt each other, let alone the other people we're supposed to love? This whole Protestant Catholic thing makes sense in my head when I start thinking about Samaritans and Jews, and it's so ingrained. My family are from Scotland. My mum is Scottish, if you haven't heard that accent, if you've ever got to meet her. My grandfather, when I was a teenager, once said to me, Alexis, you can marry whoever you want, but you can't marry a Catholic, and you can't marry an Irishman. And that was it. That's probably the only time my grandfather has weighed in on my love life, and then I met Simon, and I said, it's all good, he's a Savo, he's from Australia. We got married and we discovered that Simon's background is Irish. And there was probably some Catholic in there as well. But you know, what we won't tell Granddad won't kill him. This is what it would have been like for the Samaritans and the Jews. They were at war, there was bloodshed, and peace was nowhere to be found. And yet they still believed in the same basic principles the Jewish people did. The judgment of the Samaritans, whether right or wrong, even was felt within the inner circle of Jesus. In Luke chapter 9, verses 51 to 56, which is just one very short chapter before the message of the Good Samaritan, we read of James and John, two of Jesus' disciples, wanting to pray for fire to fall down from heaven and destroy the people of Samaria, a village of Samaria. It says, as the time approached for him to be taken up to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem, and he sent messengers on ahead, who went into a Samaritan village to get things ready for him. But the people there did not welcome him, because he was heading for Jerusalem. When the disciples, James and John, saw this, they asked, Lord, do you want us to call fire down from heaven to destroy them? But Jesus turned and rebuked them. Then he and his disciples went to another village. If Jesus was like Santa Claus, which I often suggest I probably shouldn't think about, but if Jesus was like Santa Claus, these people were not on his good list, yeah? These people didn't help him when he was walking past on his way to Jerusalem, because he was going to Jerusalem. This is Jesus we're talking about. This is the Messiah that everybody was worshipping, and yet people did not help him. And yet Jesus doesn't let James and John call down fire from heaven to destroy them. If this feud between Jewish and Samaritan was so big, then surely Jesus had to have something to say about it. What are we supposed to even make of all of this? Sometimes I wish God would just tell me how I'm supposed to feel. Who am I supposed to like and who am I not supposed to like? What am I supposed to do today, God? And yet that doesn't happen. The story of the Good Samaritan is not just about someone from a different race being nice to a good Jewish man. It's a story of two people who, whilst in essence were the same, have spent years at war against each other, and yet the Samaritan stops to help. It is a story that reminds us to love, but reminds us to love even those closest to us. The Jewish man and the Samaritan were not dissimilar. In fact, it is thought that their nations both originated from the sons of Jacob and Joseph in Genesis. Funnily enough, though, this story seems to point us to the idea that it's not the person from the radically different culture on the other side of the world that is hardest to love, but the nearby neighbour whose skin colour, language, rituals, values, ancestry, history, and customs are different from our own. Prime A example in Australia. Our Indigenous brothers and sisters and the separation, judgment, and animosity they continue to experience at the hands of our government, our society, and even us, every day, me included. Today we gather together to worship God, but also importantly we gather to bring our offerings for the self-denial of healing. It may seem very strange to you then that I'm talking about loving your immediate neighbour, when just a few minutes before we were asking you to give to your global neighbours. I haven't changed my mind, I promise. The money you have given today will make some amazing differences to the people in our global organisation that need it most to change their lives. It will go towards education and shelter. It will care for the orphan. It will start a micro-business which will feed a village. And it will walk the slums and be a light. The money you have given is world-changing. But it's an empty gesture, the people we come in contact with when we walk our streets. When we see our orphans, and our widows, and our homeless. And let them remain that way without us reaching out to help. Jesus' story of the Good Samaritan pointed out that a man who had every reason to keep walking on didn't, even though the holy men did. These people who for reasons contributed to by birth, land, separation, and the differing views of a few became despised by the Jewish nations, and were most definitely on the outer when it came to contact with Jesus and salvation. But after Jesus' death, and with the continuation of his ministry through the disciples, this was all about to change. We read an amazing story of restoration and reconciliation in Acts 8, chapters 4 to 25. Do you still have your Bibles with you? Check out Acts chapter 8, verses 4 to 25. Much like we did with the Bible reading, I thought maybe we could do a little bit of a read around with this one. Acts chapter 8, verses 4 to 25. I'll start. Has anyone got a page number? 1085 is the lovely red Bibles. Alright, Acts chapter 8, verses 4 to 25. Those who had been scattered preached the word wherever they went. Philip went down to a city in Samaria and proclaimed the Messiah there. When the crowds heard Philip and saw the signs he performed, they all paid close attention to what he said. For with shrieks, impure spirits came out of many, and many who were paralyzed or lame were healed. Verse 8.
There was great joy in that city. Now there was for some time a man named Simon who had practiced sorcery in the city and amazed all the people in Samaria. He boasted that he was someone great, and all the people, both high and low, gave him their attention and exclaimed, "This man is the divine power known as the great power." They followed him because he had amazed them for a long time with his magic. But when they believed Philip as he preached the good news of the kingdom of God and the Jesus Christ, they were baptized and both men and women. Simon himself believed and was baptized, and he followed Philip everywhere, astonished by the great signs and miracles he saw.
When the apostles in Jerusalem heard that Samaria had accepted the word of God, they sent Peter and John to them. When they arrived, they prayed for them that they might receive the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit had not yet come upon any of them. They had simply been baptized into the name of the Lord Jesus. Then Peter and John placed their hands on them, and they received the Holy Spirit.
When Simon saw that the Spirit was given at the laying of the apostles' hands, he offered them money and said, "Give me also this ability that everyone on whom I lay hands may receive the Holy Spirit."
Peter answered, "May your money perish with you because you thought you could buy the gift of God with money. You have no part sharing in this mission because your heart is not right before God."
Repent of this wickedness and pray to the Lord. Perhaps he will forgive you for having such a thought in your heart. For I see that you are full of bitterness and captive to sin.
And Simon answered, "Pray to the Lord for me, so that nothing you have said may happen to me." After they had further proclaimed the word of the Lord and testified about Jesus, Peter and John returned to Jerusalem, preaching the gospel in many Samaritan villages. This is the climax, the ending that God has been leading to, the accumulation of a long-fought rivalry between the Jews, God's chosen people, and the Samaritans, those who were for all intents and purposes left behind. God and Jesus sent the disciples to preach and bring the Holy Spirit into the lives of those they hated the most. God saw fit for them to be saved too. Jesus' words of the disciples were to go and make disciples of all nations and all the corners of the earth didn't just mean to the far-off lands, but their neighbours and those closest to them. I heard a really good example of somebody being a good Samaritan within our own congregation, and I wanted to share it with you. And I haven't told them that I'm going to share it with you, but I'm going to do it anyway and ask for forgiveness later. Somebody amongst us, Clayton, found a homeless man down near Kingway Church. He stopped, he talked to him, he bought him food, and he gave him money. And he came to church the next Sunday and he spoke to me about it. I'm ridiculously proud of Clayton for doing that. And I'm even more so proud of him because Simon and I have seen that man. We know him, we know his name. But we walked past him. I walked past him to go into town and do what I need to do. I'm a priest. It was a Friday night. I haven't seen him on a Friday night. I don't go out on a Friday night. I'm an old married woman. But I've seen this man. I've walked past him. I haven't stopped to buy him food. I've thought about it. I've cried about it. I've wondered where on earth I can get him shelter, how I can change his life. He's Indigenous. Makes me feel even worse. But I, as a priest, have walked past this man and done that. Clayton stopped and bought him food. He was the Good Samaritan. It's interesting, God gave me this passage after speaking about it in class. He gave me this sermon on Tuesday this week. On Thursday this week, God put a plan in my head about what I can do and how I can change things, and how we as a congregation may be able to feed the homeless, care for those in our neighbourhood. And it's something I'm working on and hope very soon to be able to share with you about how I think maybe we can move forward in this place, how we can help love those closest to us. But as all this was happening, and as God plants seeds, as God does, we also had a meeting on Thursday at lunchtime with the Anglican priest, who said to me, Alexis, what are you seeing is the gap here? You're new here, you see what we all do. What's the gap? What aren't we doing? What are all the churches forgetting about? And the only thing I could come up with was the Indigenous population. What are we doing? How are we reaching them? We used to have a very lovely lady here who Simon and I have called Saint Judy, who used to work with the Indigenous in their missions. We don't do that anymore. That is the gap. That is what the churches in Sale are not doing. And all of this happened in the space of the week as I was thinking about how I can be a Good Samaritan, how I cannot be the priest that walked past the person on the side of the road that needs their help. I don't have any answers for you today. I have no words of wisdom of you should go out and feed this many people and you should proclaim the gospel and the Holy Spirit will come with you. I don't have any of that for you. I also don't want to take away from this because this is a big deal. This money will change lives. But the more I think about the story of the Good Samaritan, I think about the fact that God wasn't saying you need to love the whole world. God was saying, I want you to love those closest to you. I want you to love those that it's hardest to love. I want you to love the one that's probably killed people in your family. I want you to help them. As we move forward as a congregation, as a church, as we set new plans and new goals, and I sit in my office every day and try and figure out what we're doing together, it's my very real and deep hope that we as a congregation will help those in our community who need it most. The other churches around us are big. They have lots of people. They have lots of money. They have a bigger worship team. But I very firmly believe that the Salvation Army in Sale is supposed to be here for a different reason and serving a different purpose to all of those around us. So together, hopefully in these next few years, because Simon and I are not going anywhere, ever, just staying here, we will work together and we will see how we can be the Good Samaritan in our community and to those closest to us. Does that sound okay? Hopefully God has given you something, because God has been giving me something different in this passage all week. But I think that message might be individual for all of us. So hopefully as you go from this place, you'll think of something different that you haven't thought of before.